Welcome back. We are extending our existing brands to be future-ready and like Minimalist R&D focus and single-mindedness, says Hindustan Unilever's MD and CEO Rohit Jawa. In an exclusive conversation with Shireen Pan, listen into excerpts of that conversation.
Let's talk about the proliferation of digital brands and what that means for a company like yours. Does it make sense to build versus buy at this point in time? You've just done a big deal. You've bought Minimalist, the skincare brand. It's a 3,000 crore rupee deal that's been done. And you intend to let that run independently as a speedboat within the HUL ecosystem. But does it make sense to build or does it make sense to buy?
So our approach to, first of all, let's be clear about what is digital brands. Because digital first brands, for sure, because, you know, it's quite, it's easy. Not easy, but it's easier to find product market fit by using digital medium because you can try different things, you can optimize, iterate all the time. And we've done that. We have an incubator, started with a beauty business. We've incubated, we've created new brands. Some we have stopped, like Acne Squad. Some we have pivoted, like Novology. Some we are rolling out because we found a product market fit, like Simple and Love Beauty Planet, and they're going to offline. And that method of growth is not that different from any other so-called digital brand, first brand. So I think today we have the wherewithal, the tools, the capability to do exactly what any so-called first digital first brands can do. But at the end of the day, you do need to go to serve the entire country. You need to go to offline channels. You need to be consistent. You have to innovate constantly. You need technology. You need the patience to be 16 years and still doing this brand line. And you need strategic depth and discipline. So I think that is something what we can bring. And we have various ways in which we expand our portfolio to good demand spaces. We have built brands ourselves, like Love Beauty Planet, like Novology. We have borrowed brands from Unilever and brought them into the market, like Simple, like Liquid IV that we're just launching. And when we find that we don't have a solution in either of these two spaces, we always have the opportunity to go and look at right portfolio fit, and that's where Minimalist, an excellent brand, standing for very sharp transparency and active sciences, comes into play. And let's not forget, we have a massive range of existing brands that can also stretch to wherever they can stretch. A Lakme or a Pond's can get into new spaces. Lifebuoy, our oldest brand, 100-year-old, is getting back into freshness shortly, is getting relaunched as we speak, starting from Coombe. So yes, so I mean, we use all tools and all levers to build our portfolio to basically be future ready.
You know, speaking of being future ready, and I just want to dwell a little bit more on the Minimalist deal that you've done, as well as your own experience of building D2C brands, and you gave us examples of Love Beauty Planet and a bunch of others. You know, what has been the challenge there, and what has been the lessons perhaps that you've picked up on from the deal that you've done with Minimalist on how they may have potentially done things differently to have been able to cross the threshold of getting to a 500 crore rupee ARR number in, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I think for all of us budding entrepreneurs, you know, entrepreneurialism is obviously fraught with risk and of hundreds of brands that get launched. And by the way, I really encourage the ecosystem in India, and I welcome people who, you know, bring in new things and innovation in the market. So that's a good thing for the country as a whole. So let's keep doing it. But at the same time, acknowledge that there is a risk involved, and most brands don't scale beyond 100 crore mark, and it's hard to go to 200 crores. It's even harder to go to 500 crores, and then very few make it to 1,000 crores, and so on and so forth. So I think the first thing is that there's an element of chance in getting the right product fit and having everything working for you. So within that, there are a few assets that you know, we've scanned, and we found Minimalist as being one of those. And the brands that really do break through have a few things, I think, about them. One is that the sharpness on finding a real solution to a real gap in the market. So Minimalist found the gap in transparency and science and, you know, being really good on product. Because there's a lot of claims out in the market, but if you look at Minimalist, when I speak to the founders, they said, whatever be the case, I'm going to make a great product. And we found their R&D focus extremely good. So it starts from having a fabulous product. And they've kept the brand very consistent, very clean, very single-minded. And they've been very careful in pricing and not trying to get ahead too soon, having the patience to be profitable even in the first 5 years, and a frugal mindset, and getting immersed in the whole world of Minimalist. You know, they themselves sell. They have a D2C side, of course. They hack problems with the consumers. They know what's working, not working. It's that level of ownership I wish we could infuse everywhere, because that's really creates that immersion in ownership, the live and breathe 24/7 the brand. That's what makes for excellence. And when we do that in our existing brands, we see significant years of success, and then we don't take our eyes off the ball, and then we go to course correct. So really it's all about all of those things, nothing very complex, but hard to replicate.
You were talking about relaunching some of your power brands. They enjoy significant amount of legacy as well as loyal consumer followers as well. But what are some of the things that you need to be mindful of as you try and relaunch a brand that has had a deep impact in the consumer's mind? What do you not want to do? What are the do's and don'ts?
Take Lifebuoy, for instance. I mean, it's a brand that we just spoke about. So Lifebuoy is 100 years old. It's, was born to basically address the hygiene issues and the matters of life and death in those times in people. And even today, we know that during COVID, it had high relevancy. What the brand has done is evolved from a carbolic soap when I joined the company to a milled soap, and now from preventing germs, bacteria. Tandurusti ki raksha karta hai Lifebuoy. Have you heard this jingle? There you are. So I mean, Gen Z, everybody's heard that, even though it's so old. And it's built some distinctive brand assets like the red color. It's jingle, which I just mentioned. It's a sound signal.
I thought you were going to sing it for us.
I'm going to let our advertising do the job. You don't want these guys to run away. And finally, I think it's a brand that's straight true to times. And now we are moving towards skin protection. Its formulation has got a new technology that has vitamins. It can also has enough space to us to put goodies. So it's going to be essentially about preventing skin infections. And it remained contemporary. So I think all great brands, and there are many, that can remain contemporary, have to constantly be relevant. And relevant means relevant in both product format, relevant in how we speak to the consumer. You can't speak to the consumer the same way as we did 30, 40 years ago, and offering benefits that are more contemporary. But some things must remain absolutely universally and secularly true, which are what we call distinctive brand assets. There are memory structures that are basically built over years through investment. It's like capital investment. You don't change that. And the brand positioning, because hygiene will remain relevant for centuries in the future, but what it means exactly might keep shifting. So it's the brand positioning, brand communication idea, distinctive brand assets. They must not remain, they must not change. And that's how great brands remain great for a long time. Some that don't die. So, it's a very clear outcome.
Well, a very interesting conversation there with the top brass at HUL. Time now for a short break. We put the spotlight on banks in Q3 FY25 on the other side.